Good morning and welcome to another Greyhound Racing podcast here with Matchbook Betting Exchange. Of course, we are discussing all matters Star Sports and TRC English Greyhound Derby. We're down to the last 24. We've seen some incredible racing thus far. And yes, with only, 7 races remaining in the competition, you feel the best is yet to come. As always, I'm joined by PL Paul Lawrence, the master, here as we pat ourselves in the back after a couple of good winners again last weekend. But we are here in search of a few winners in the quarterfinals. And again, we'll take a look at the anti-post market. PL, it's really coming to a boil. Lovely. This is a proper English Greyhound Derby.
It certainly is. And a lot of that is to, I think, the Irish Challenge. It's been, we were wondering how strong it would be, but it's been very, very strong indeed, Ian. And the cream has certainly risen to the top.
You say that. It has been very strong to this point, but the home team put down their cards a bit last weekend. They had 4 of the 8 heat winners. I didn't see that coming. And not only did they have the 4, but they had certainly 2 or 3 of the fastest heat winners. Of course, Romeo Command really set the pace. Brinkley's Magic performing remarkably well to score by a wide margin. A Distant Podge. And of course, the other English trained winner was, bear with me, Fabulous Azura, of course, who you gave a strong mention to. We were both giving a strong mention to in the last of the 8 heats. Lots to reflect on. Times were strange. Like, there's no point in putting it any other way. I don't know how to read the times in terms of, there was dogs doing fast times. He thought, yep, they're doing fast times. Then the other dogs going, like, that's sensational and just not as fast as you'd expect. Like Ballymacmarino is the obvious one that comes to mind. Even Romeo Hanzo to a point. Even Swords Rex, like, I know he does 28.93, doesn't he? Yeah. But it looked all the world like it was a 28.75 type run.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Marino as well probably looked quicker than the time that he recorded. But there were a lot of wide margin winners as well, weren't there? Which was a bit strange. It was that some of the races were a little bit messy and behind the winners, if you like. And maybe it exaggerated the performances to a certain extent. But yeah, there was certainly some impressive performances, put it that way.
Yeah, there certainly were. Let's take a look now at the top of the anti-post market and see how it sits as we speak. Of course, Swords Rex has done nothing wrong to this point in the competition. PL, it was so impressive on the eye. I know the clock wasn't as quick as a couple of the others, but he's just so professional. The second he hit the ground, he just took off, and he's in around a 5-2 mark for anti-post glory. Hard to disagree with that. He still remains the Greyhound to beat because of that early speed, because of his professionalism, and he's going to take the world of beating.
Oh, he really looks. He does look the most likely Derby winner. That's the thing. And as I say, I kicked myself right for the word go. I know the trumpets will come out from in Ireland, but from my point of view, I kind of missed the boat with him, and I did sulk, and it was the worst thing. Even at 9-2, I probably should have got involved before last week, because he looks the real deal. His action looks great. His demeanour looks great. He's showing all sorts of speed, and he's clocking decent times. He just looks the real deal to me.
Yeah, I said 5-2, and 5-2 is the general odds with the anti-posts. The fixed odds firms, like 375 would be best you can get, but 4.2 there on the Matchbook Betting Exchange. So perhaps a little bit of juice in that, especially considering he is the short price favorite of the weekend at odds on. In fact, I think he's the only odds on favorite at the weekend to win his heat.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, as you say, you mentioned on the exchange there that there might be some people that have bet him at the 20. They might think, well, I could improve my position and just take a little bit out of him, and he might go, 4 dead, 4.1 or something like that. But as you say, really, it looks. You can't say it's a straightforward task, but it looks a straightforward task.
I bring it back to that night where Graham Holland, after the Easter Cup success, on the interview with Robert Catterson, on RPG TV, said, "Yeah, we're English Derby bound now." And he was 20-1, and he was still 20-1 the next day, and he was still 20-1 the next day after that.
Yeah.
And the moment those words came out of Graham Holland's lips, I've been saying it ever since. He should have been a 6-1 favorite from that point. And here we are now, just a matter of weeks later. And as you say, you can get 4.2 in the exchange, but generally in around the 4, even less than 4, certainly with the fixed odds firms. So, yeah, 20-1. I'm happy with it. I'm not going to be cashing out just yet, PL. I
No.
said the same last year about Ballinabola Ed. Let's hope it doesn't go down that same route. In behind them, Ballymacmarino 5.9 on the exchange. And that's again better than the fixed odds firms who are in around the 9-2 mark. He's just done everything right as well. He's turned into a real professional, and take out the time from last week, the performance was perfect.
Yeah, you're right. The dog has progressed throughout the Derby. He has impressed. His times have gone kind of back the ways a little bit, which is a bit of a worry to a certain extent. But as you say, you're looking at a performance, and I will say I think he's been a little bit blessed with the draws and the makeups that he's had. I was surprised when the middle came off. Who am I to tell Liam Dowling what to do? But I just don't think he's a dog that really wants to be in trap one necessarily. But he's been getting the 3s and 4s now since the switch from the middle to the rails, and he's been performing with alacrity. And you can't really knock the dog. He's doing really, really well. And as I say, I was a bit surprised with the time, but really, what does that mean when you're winning the races the way that he is?
Yeah. Like, the fact of the matter is there's so few middles and wides left now that, he's more likely to get the middle draw from an inside seeding than he would if he was, if he was a middle seed, it could well be in the stripes. And that's not where he wants to be. There's no question about it. Like, you could say the same for the likes of a Romeo Command, straight right from traps last week out to trap 4 or 5 again. But there's no guarantee when these dogs have dogs on their outside that they won't straighten up, and they're not going to continue to drive right. Yeah, it's a strange one. I understand completely why he's seated the way he is, but it's at the outset that this seeding has to be right, because if all the dogs are seeded correctly, well, then there's obviously a lot more middle seeds in the draw, and then you're more likely to get a middle draw. But until it's sort of enforced from the outset, I don't think that's going to happen, PL. Sadly.
No. Sadly, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't think we need to waste too much time going down the same old route, because we've been talking about it far too long.
We definitely don't. On from the dog we just mentioned, Romeo Command. He took off the other night, PL. It's the first time in the competition he'd hit the lids. We've seen him hit the lids before in the UK, not so much in Ireland. He had 1 win from 11 in Ireland. He's now, 11 from 12 in the UK. He's been remarkably consistent since he came over. He's 12 from 13, in fact, in the UK. Massively fast greyhound. Last week, we just saw him on the front, and it was a joy to watch him in full stride. He's out in 5 the next night. We'll get to the draw in a little while, but it'll be interesting to see how he handles the draw. But there's no question, he definitely threw his hat into the ring last week.
He certainly did, and he certainly impressed me. And I know you can say, well, hang on, he probably won't break like that again, but I keep saying, he's not really he's not my type of dog, but he certainly impressed, and he beat a decent enough field. It was hard not to be impressed by it. The clock bore that out. That's what's going to win him a derby, Ian, is learning how to trap. And I have to tell you, I don't think that 5 in his heat is really going to worry him too much. It was just the all-round pace. It was similar, wasn't it, with Brinkley's Magic as well, in that they both started really well. They got to the front early, and when they see the rabbit in front of them, they're not stopping, and that makes those performances even more impressive. It was a taking performance from Romeo Command, and I have to tip my hat to him.
Huh?
I have to tip my hat to him, because I was kind of not crabbing him. I was just saying he wasn't really my type of dog, but I was really impressed with him. As you mentioned, there was a lot of impressive performances in the 3rd round.
Yeah, again, he hasn't been badly drawn now in the next round, despite the fact he's out in 5. My only issue is, how will he trap from 5? Like, just it's a different box and whatnot. But like, if he traps on terms again, like Aero Aaron, Savannah Bow, even Hopes Rhino's going to be edging in. Burj Khalifa will go up reasonably well on his outside, but you'd imagine he'd have enough to lead Burj Khalifa into the opening corner. The one issue is Boyle Sports Gift. Now, he beat Boyle Sports Gift 10 1/4 last night, but I don't think that sort of merits how Boyle Sports Gift ran. He missed the kick somewhat, was pacing up, and then got done on the corner, got done 2 or 3 times in the contest. I think he can finish a lot closer, if not reverse the form, but we'll get to that in a few moments. After Romeo Command, where we we'll wait for the ticker to go across there. Of course, we have a couple of more Irish runners before we get to Brinkley's Magic. Where are we? The likes of Romeo Hanzo and Clona Duke have to be mentioned. Clona Duke, PL. You said it the other night. Brinkley's Magic got out in front of him. It was a slightly flat run by Clona Duke. Given the fact that it was Brinkley's Magic out front, yes, you can understand why he's beaten, but he's beaten 7.5. He's at 10 there in the exchange, and if I was on him, I'd just have a little concern.
Yeah, exactly. He did, as you say, Brinkley's Magic ran away from him. Clona Duke showed a little bit down the back straight, but Brinkley's Magic ran away from him, and that, yeah, that's probably a little bit of a concern. Do you know one thing as well? Graham was interviewed, I think, after Swords Rex, and I got the impression, and this is something that we don't know sitting in, you were probably sitting in the commentary box, I'm sitting in the pub watching it. You don't realise how warm it is, the conditions and what that takes out of the greyhound, the whole process of during the day, keeping them calm, getting to the track, weighing them in, keeping them the lid on it. I think the Swords Rex might have had that a little bit of advantage in that he was there early in the early heat. So those performances, sometimes you have to kind of take them on face value, but also probably factor into there could be excuses, for that weather and how it affects dogs differently. So although we were really impressed with him in the first round, there's no one, we can't doubt his pace and his ability to break a track record. It was a little bit disappointing on that one run, but other than that, prior to that, he's been running well in the Derby. So I don't think we can really, draw a line through him.
Likewise, it'd be no surprise to me if he popped out next week and did 29.80 again, or a 28.80. I certainly wouldn't be ruling him out on the strength of one run. We've seen a body of work from him that would suggest he's amongst the very fastest in training, and I think that will continue. You mentioned about the heat. I was going to mention earlier on, we were talking about the times. You find intense heat like that often affects the track more because the Bowser goes out, and it was very wet. I believe it was very wet before Swords Rex ran. And all of a sudden it's drying out for the next 2 heats, and it's probably perfect for Romeo Command, Brinkley's Magic. And then all of a sudden it could be drying out, or maybe the Bowser went out again, I'm not sure. All of a sudden track times are back that 30, 40 spots. Now, maybe they're only back 20, but the 2 dogs prior took off. So you sort of throw out the times a little bit at this stage of competition, and as the old expression says, you see with your eyes rather than the clock. And that's where we're at. But I agree with you in terms of you don't know what sort of how certain dogs handle the heat. And it was very intense. And it's quite open and toaster, of course. Like you're very exposed there.
Yeah, indeed. And as you say, those factors, I think you can get tracks like that, like Toaster, that are exposed. If they put the Bowser on, if they get a little bit of rain, if the sun comes out, all those atmospherics do affect times. And it's all right. People saying, what you're talking about, PL, it does change. There's no, and I think you're right. I think you always have to look at how did that dog perform and who did he beat, and was the dog he beat in behind unlucky? All those factors. You have to. I think even when you're looking at, you can worry about times, but when you're going dog for dog, there's no. Well, I don't think there's anything better than assessing a dog on the ability of the greyhounds that he's running against, not just is he racing against the clock.
Yeah. Let's talk about the 3 dogs left on the ticker there. Brinkley's Magic, Ballymacfin and Gaytime Nemo. You said see with your eyes. Well, we saw with our eyes and on the clock with Brinkley's Magic. He took off into the opening corner. He did very well to contain Clona Duke and comfortably contain him into the bend. Does a 4:09. I noticed on his card back on 14th of May, there's an ease 1. Just the other night, I only copped it about the 3rd or 4th time I'd watched it. If you actually look him on the opening corner, he takes a stride for himself. Just that one stride for himself. If there was dogs on his inside, it could have been a very telling stride. That'd be my concern, especially if he's drawn further off the fence with faster dogs up his inside than were there the other evening. Clona Duke was on his outside and couldn't take advantage of it. He turned in front, and once doing so, forget about it. Like, he's a half brother to Bobsleigh Dream, who's very similar. She's massive down the back and very strong. This fellow has like star, like that's what he's all about. He's just the engine. And when he got loose in the bunny, forget about it. Not a dog in training picking him up. it's a slight concern for me going forward. He's 5-1, let's say, for his heat the next night. What's your take on him?
I think he's a very, very fast dog. If you're being polite, you could say he's enigmatic. I saw him in the trial stakes where that eased comment. He was alongside. It was alongside a dog. It was Romeo Hanzo. It was Romeo Hanzo. I'm sure it was Romeo Hanzo.
That's night he was beaten by Romeo Hanzo. Is that the
yeah,
night Romeo Hanzo was on his inside, moving off onto him?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And that was it.
Well,
and he kind of
that ease is probably more understandable then when you realize,
yeah. He just you could see him. He checked his stride a little bit, and then he took off afterwards. And that's why I backed him in the first round, Ian. And then in the first round, I thought he had a massive chance. I think Jack Bella was drawn alongside him. He had two staying type of dogs drawn alongside him. I thought, well, he's going to get a lovely run. There'll be no easing tonight. And he got headed by the Thunder dog that went wallop from 4. Yeah. And he couldn't bridge the gap. And even on the run, and then Jack Bella went past him. And I thought that was disappointing. That was disappointing because you had a clear run. You didn't really show anything. And then the next time I backed Romeo Hanzo because I knew he would lead him. And then he came and chinned me and I couldn't catch my breath then. I thought, what is this dog all about? And then when you see him break, go clear and run away from the track record holder, Clona Duke, you know this is one fast animal. Now, all you can say is that he's trained by a young man that ain't too slow. And if he knows what he's got. And that's something that David Mullins always said to me about dogs that I had with him that might be that little bit quirky. It's all about knowing they're a little bit quirky and you train them differently. If you've got if you're worth any salt as a trainer, you know what to do. You change it up, you mix it up with a
dog. That's the exact term. You change it up. You have to keep them on their toes, keep them guessing.
Yeah. And that's obviously what he's done with Bring His Magic, because I remember Pat Buckley telling me this is a fast dog. Yeah. And, I'm not saying Tom Heilbronn is a better trainer than Pat Buckley. I'm just saying sometimes things click with dogs, a different routine, the way, the kennel life. And as long as Tom's got that in his head, I think this dog will go a long way because he's one fast animal.
A monster, monstrously fast. 29.79 last week off the front. Whether he'll get off the front again in this competition is yet to be seen, but we know he can do it off the back as well. Like he picked up Romeo Hanzo, who we're going to get to in a moment, in the previous round. Like that was a hell of a run too. Clock wasn't there that night, but like I said, forget about the clocks. He picked up Romeo Hanzo. The other dog there, Ballymacfin, is next, 17. I'd be majorly concerned if I was a backer of Ballymacfin. He just hasn't run the place great at all yet. Liam did suggest that there was a touch of kennel sickness at one point, and maybe Ballymacfin is feeling it more than others. It was I didn't think he'd qualified. I must say, there was talk about him last week, and I thought the price would be a bit closer myself. But in the end, he was just honestly. Swords Rex was the open class runner. He looked like he was taking on A3 dogs, Ballymacfin included. That's not Ballymacfin's running. No. Can he return to his best form quick enough? That's the question.
Well, I said that last week, didn't I? When we previewed the third round, I said he needs to improve, and I'd rather he do it last Saturday than keep waiting, because he's now actually getting disappointing. And I backed him, I suppose. So I'm waiting for the spark. And I've got to tell you, I'm struggling to see it anytime soon.
Another run like last week, and let's say he's managed to sneak through in third, beaten a long way. Like he'll be a bigger price next week than he was 6 weeks ago to win the Derby.
Yeah. It's just been disappointing, as you say. There could be excuses. I was saying, I've not spoken to Liam, but it could be that he didn't settle, and then I heard the same. There was a bit of a touch of sickness, and hopefully that they'll get that behind them. But you don't run it. That's 3 runs now. We said don't judge a dog on 1 run, but we've seen him 3 times now, and he's not impressed.
Yeah, he's not a dog that'll be coming from off the pace. Like he's going to need to find his trapping boots, get to the front early, and just probably needs a cider. Just needs a confidence builder. Quarterfinals of a Derby is not the place where you want to be looking for that. You know what I mean? You need it in the bag already. And the last dog on the ticker there that we're going to mention is Gaytime Nemo. caught the hop a bit by Distant Podge last week. I thought he ran okay in defeat. I was more impressed with his run in defeat the previous week behind Fate Point Susie. But he's a strong running greyhound that just seems to be happy in his surroundings and running well. I think he's a tough draw. I think he'll probably need a little bit of luck to qualify. But I wouldn't put people off at around 19. If he gets through, he's more than capable of a big run.
Yeah, he's been showing what you call decent pace without being electric by any means, but he's been running well. He's been holding his own in decent company, but I would question whether he's quite good enough to win a Derby.
Yeah. Let's look at the 4 heats at PL, because this is where the juice has been coming for us recently. We both nominated Romeo Hanzo last week. We said the 6-4 on offer at the time was massive. We both alluded to the fact that he would go off odds on in our opinion, and he was returned 4-6. And you know what? After 2 strides that have taken plenty of 4-6 if it was given us, he is running in the second of the quarterfinals. We'll come to him in a moment, but it's good to get a winner on the board once again. We did give 1 or 2 others a good mention. Obviously, there was a couple of short price winners that we were sort of not putting you on, but just telling you, listen, don't oppose them. Let's look at the opening heat, because it does feature Romeo Command, the 11-8 favourite. He's out in trap 5, as we said, but it's not a race with huge early speed. The one dog he has to worry about early is certainly Boyle Sports Gift, who missed the kick somewhat last week. I'm gonna go for a reverse here. I'm gonna go for Boyle Sports Gift to get off the front, because I think if he comes away in any way, shape, or form, he leads the top 2. And that'd be my selection in the opening quarterfinal. But Burj Khalifa, the bowl 20-1 disappeared. He was returned 8-1. He could run well on the outside. You gave him a mention. I gave the other one a mention as well, as I said, or as it was, but he didn't actually get involved. But Burj Khalifa certainly did.
Yeah, and I never backed him. I kicked myself really, because I didn't bet that well, I must admit. That was the success, Romeo Hanzo, but I didn't really bet that well, because I looked at the Brinkley's Magic dog as well. I'd already bet 2 dogs in the race. I was a little bit against Clona Duke there and at the prices, and I really should have put him into the mix. And Burj Khalifa was the same. So I got to hold my hands up and said I didn't really bet that well. But it looks to be sort of what Romeo Command's going to do, because I actually had him odds on only. I'm a bit worried because, like you say, don't judge a dog on one run, and I say I've been a bit lukewarm with his performances, but that was just so impressive. And I happen to think that trap 5 isn't a terrible draw for him here. Burj Khalifa obviously can't get a touch. Has got a massive draw on the outside and has been impressive. I was really impressed with him behind Romeo Command. Thought he ran really well in the second round, and of course he swept around the outside of Sign It Goofy to win last Saturday. But I can't get out of my head that Romeo Command's already come from off the back of him, and I don't think he'll be too far behind him either. I think Burj Khalifa could lead. I think Romeo Command could go up with him as well. And you're right, it's what Ball Sports Gift does, because Ball Sports Gift definitely got crowded on the run up from box 4. I think 3 will be a little bit better, as you say. He hasn't really got a lot to lead in Errol Aaron and Savannah Bow. But you know what? I keep looking at Hope's Rhino at 33. I only had him half that price.
Yeah. And when I was writing it down on my card going, hang on a second, Hope's Rhino's 33. Now, yeah. I would like him in 1 or 2. I remember him in Shelburne Park. He was known as Petersburg, and he was mad for the fence. But I'll tell you one thing, like in Shelburne on his best form, he'd be, if he was in 1 or 2 here, he'd be single figures and low enough single figures.
Yeah. So I can't. I'm trying to work the dog out. I think he's probably more of a staying type of dog himself. But do you know where sometimes you see those middle boxes in and they just go wallop and think, yeah, Jesus, how did that lead? And there is no early in this race, really. I would say Burj Khalifa's probably got about the best early, and he's going to be out the way.
I'm going to put on record, I think Boyle Sports Gift is going to do a 4:08 and lead 3 lengths into the back straight, okay? I'm putting that on record, okay? Because
it's not impossible.
He can go bingo. Kevin Hennessy has told me twice, back him for the fastest sectional. Like he has he's a 121 in Limerick. Like that's rocketing to the corner. Okay, it's only a 120 sectional, but it shows what he can do from boxes. And he has yet to hit the lids, and he's all of a sudden he's drawn in the bingo box of 3. Just don't be surprised if he's 3 clear at the back straight. He's my selection anyway, 2-1. Are you going for a Hopes Rhino or are you going for Romeo Command?
No, I think because I make Romeo Command slight odds on at 11-8, I've got to tip him really. I think he's the most likely winner. But I was the same as you. I was with Bort's Gift last time out, and there was probably more early pace on his inside, to be fair. And whereas
he was edging in himself. It has to be said.
He was.
He sort of created his own traffic. Whereas if he'd gone up straight, he probably would have turned a clear second. But he will need to trap better, obviously, to lead Romeo Command. But he's certainly capable of doing that. We won't spend any more time on that one. Let's move on to the second of the 4 quarterfinals. At the moment, around 7-4 joint favourites, Clona Duke and Romeo Hanzo. It's then 11-2 on the outside, Ballyhimmock and Leo. So it's a 1-2-3 for Ireland in terms of the betting. But I wouldn't just completely dismiss the remainder. Sign it Otis is obviously capable of going up strongly in the inside, may edge off slightly. He's going to need to trap. That's been his issue. Magical or Mystical Mario, that's not been his issue. He rocketed to the corner last night, and obviously he had Fabulous Azura in behind him, and he just couldn't hold on. The previous time he's picked up by McNeil, he could potentially set the pace again, and Cochise has been running so well, but this is a different test for him because there's no way he's leading up Mystical Mario, and all of a sudden if Clona Duke and Romeo Hanzo get their run into the opening corner, he could find himself a lot further back than he has done in recent starts. It's an intriguing contest. I suppose the fact that Clona Duke is drawn on the right side of Romeo Hanzo would leave him as my selection, but I don't think it's a race I'll be getting too involved in.
No, and I've got a fairly strong opinion here in that I think that one of those 2 dogs will win. I make them actually short price joint favourites, and I kind of wanted to make Romeo Hanzo favourite in front of Clona Duke because I just think that Romeo Hanzo in 3 is
you're more in around the 5-4 each of 2 and
I am
6 or 8 Ballyhimmock and Neo, and you're talking probably Mystical Mario 10, Cochise 12, and even Signed Oath is maybe 16. You're bigger the big 3.
You know me too well, Bugle Boy. Yeah. You know me too well.
No, I tend to agree with you. I think the likely winner is going to come from one of those 2, and like 7-4, like 7-4. It's not what you call dutching, but like it's hard to see past one of them not getting loose early.
Yeah, and I just think I just favour Romeo Hanzo. I don't know why, because I know Clona Duke can probably be better. Maybe it's like you say, because Brinkley's Magic ran away from Clona Duke. I just fancy that Romeo Hanzo will get first jump on this field. I just fancy that he'll get inside Mystical Mario and he'll lead at the first turn. I don't think I'll catch him, and that's the way I think. So
I'm gonna say old friends are best, and I'm gonna stick with Clona Duke to go bingo bango 2880. Back in the scene, boys and girls. I can't believe you doubted me. Here I am. Look at me in all my splendor. I think the 7-4 is fair. I think the 7-4 fair. At the same time, I think the 7-4 Romeo Hanzo is probably fair as well. They're taking up 72, 73% of the market, and it could be 95% of the market that could be, or 90% of the market that could be taken up.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the third quarter final. Sorry, not of the market. 73% in terms of I'm betting to about 120 book, right? Let's not get technical, do you know what I mean? Let's go on to the third quarter final. Ballymac Marino is odds on in around the 4-6, 8-13 mark PL. Jack Tavernbella on the fence at 10-1. She shouldn't worry him in the early yards. Drive On Lad has loads of pace. He's yet to hit the lids. He's 25-1. I thought that was a touch big. Brinkley's Magic is 5. Gaytime Nemo in around a 6 and 14 Ninja Kerry. I think I'd like to be opposing Gaytime Nemo from the draw. I think he'll need to hit it. Brinkley's Magic, I'd like to be opposing him too, but 5-1 is plenty big enough now, for a dog who did 29.79 last week. Ballymac Marino is certainly the choice for me, with my green tinted glasses, but I think I'd want closer to even money.
Yeah, I didn't make him as short as the bookmakers have made him. Don't get me wrong. As I say, I really like the dog and I've been really impressed with him. And actually, I mentioned about this, seeding him inside. He did win the Juvenile Classic from 2 in Tralee, and he kind of edged off into maybe 3, something like that. But in the semis, he was in 2 again. There was a dog on his outside and he stayed fairly straight. So you wouldn't really expect Driver and Lad to worry him too much. Although, having said that, in a trial stakes and in 2 solo trials, Driver and Lad has got a 4:15, 4:10, 4:17. We haven't seen him trap yet. And again, when he did do the 4:13 in the trial stakes, yeah, that was from 3, and he only moved into sort of 2.5. So that might be a good thing for Marino in that it will keep him straighter. I don't think he'll be diving straight off Marino by any means. If he breaks and he breaks clean, then he'll just edge off into lane 3. I think 3.25, something like that. I think the key to this race is what Brinkley's Magic does at the start, because I think we could see some kind of race here if Brinkley's Magic does get a break and goes up anywhere near Marino. I think we could get quite a tussle, and I think at 5-1, Brinkley's Magic is priced wrongly in this race. That's my take on this race. I think that Brinkley's Magic is too big at 5-1.
Yeah, this is one we've touched on the last couple of weeks. Okay, granted we were wrong last week about Ballymacfin and Swords Rex, but Ballymacmarino should be bigger and Brinkley's Magic should be shorter. I think we'll both agree on that.
Yeah.
It's hard to sort of ignore the fact that he beat, whatever about the 28.79, it was Clona Duke he was running away from, the track record holder. We know how immensely fast he is. And the fact that Drive On Lad's not going up well, Jack Tavern Bella's not blessed with early speed, Gaytime Nemo, we don't know what he's going to do from 5, and Ninja Kerry will stay on his own out the outside there. Brinkley's Magic could very easily get a clear run into the opening corner, be it upsides or even, certainly on last week's sectional, maybe fractionally in front of Ballymacmarino. Obviously, I have expressed my slight concerns about that just that stride on the corner he takes for himself. That I'm not going to call it an ease, but he definitely just steadies himself. That'd be my concern. But I'll tell you one thing: at 5-1, you're more than entitled to take your chance.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that you're right. The most likely winner is Marino, and that's why I've got him slight odds on favourite, but not as short. And we're looking for value. We're just searching through the value, and it doesn't change. It doesn't change the fact that you're going to make Marino the most likely winner if he goes walloping and leads all the way. You go, well, I thought that might happen, but it's everything, and then everything that we're doing is all about prices, Ian. And I just my point of view here is that Brinkley's Magic is too big at 5. He looks to be coming to the ball to me, and I think he's got a man that knows what he's got. He knows the type of dog that he's got, and he's actually learning how to train him. And again, I'm not, that's not no disrespect to anybody. It's just I'm tipping my hat to him in that Brinkley's Magic is a fast dog. He's a bit enigmatic, and he needs coaching. And I think Tom's coaching.
He's also 2.5 years of age now. So there is a level of maturity there coming into him as well.
Yeah.
And Tom has tapped into that, and he obviously has the dog fit as a fiddle, and the results are there. He's clearly a dog that's in great form in himself, happy as a lamb, and it's producing on the track as a result. And who's to say he couldn't take off? Who's to say he couldn't do 29.60 on Saturday night? Bang! All of a sudden we could have a dog disputing Derby favoritism, this time next week. Now, whether that happened, I don't know, but he's certainly a greyhound with the ability and the potential to do something pretty fast. He had a 28.18 and 28.12 trial at Shelburne Park, after like a couple of races. He did a couple of trials in Shelburne Park. Never won a race at Shelburne. I think he won a race down at, was it Waterford somewhere? But obviously a very, very fast greyhound from the start. So it's great to see him now fulfilling that potential. Moving on to the last quarterfinal, I said earlier on there's only one odds-on chance. Of course, there's 2 odds-on chances. Ballymacmarino and Swords Rex. Swords Rex is drawn in trap 3. I think we said earlier at the start of competition, if you were given the option, you'd paint the white jacket onto his back, and here he is for the first time in the competition in trap 3. Ballymacfin is on his inside. He made light work of Ballymacfin into the opening corner last week. Romeo Top Gun on the inside. You wouldn't expect him to cause him too much concern. Interesting to see how Fabulous Azura runs. It was great to see her coming forward last week, and she is more than entitled to come on again for the run. She's obviously enjoying the fact that she's getting a few runs now in a row after her seasonal rest, and I just wouldn't rule out a big run from her. Distant Podge is 6. He took off last week into the opening corner. This is a very different test for him. He was unchallenged to the bend last week. It'd be very interesting to see how he runs with a couple up his inside, more than capable of going up as fast as him, if not faster. And then Untold Slotty on the outside, who ran so well to win the opening round, has been sort of just never really got involved the last 2 nights. Obviously, the second last night, Ballyhimmock and Leo was sort of left in front on the opening corner with the dog breaking down. Untold Slotty was sort of turn second. Was never going to pick up a Ballyhimmock and Leo, but be interesting to hear how he runs. He's a 20-1 chance. That's probably about right at this stage. But is it a case of Swords Rex goes and wins it? I know I'd have a different second favourite than, Ballymacfin or Distant Podge. Certainly on recent evidence, I'd be taking a chance with Fabulous Azura, as my second choice in the market. But I don't know how you see it, PL. I think the 4-7 Swords Rex is probably fair.
Yeah, I think it's right. Yeah, he's been so impressive, Ian. You just can't be against him. As you say, 3's perfect for him. He's breaking nicely, and then he's just roaring. He's just showing real eye-catching, breathtaking pace, and he's a joy to watch. Honestly, he is a joy to watch. I saw him in that in the Kirby final. I just thought you could be an English Derby winner then, and he kind of went a little bit off the ways, and then Graham got him back Irish Derby final night, and he hasn't looked back since then. He looks a real fast son of Droopy Sydney, and it just it'll take an awful lot of beating.
I think this is the best he's ever run, Pia. I've seen him obviously through a Kirby, and I saw it through an Easter Cup, and we've seen glimpses of this sheer brilliance. Now, he's always been brilliant, but I mean just different level brilliance. And I think we're seeing more and more of it now. I think what he's doing to the opening corner against good dogs is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah. He did a 396 sectional in the trial stake, and you see very quick away in all those races since. It's been immediate acceleration. It hasn't been the trapping. It's been that first 3 strides. He's putting dogs to the sword in 5 strides.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just very quick away. It's that decent break, and then it's just raw speed. It is breathtaking speed, and you can't crab him. And you can understand now why I'm kicking myself that I wasn't joining you at 20-1. But that is life. It deserves a bugle as well, because he's good enough. And as well, the fact that Romeo Magico last year, you just touched on it there. He learned how to run Toaster, and I think that's the key to it. And he learned how to run Toaster from any box. He won from 4 in the final, Romeo Magico. You probably want to say, he wanted to be a bit nearer the fence. But the way Swords Rex is running, he actually could win from any box in Toaster.
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to agree with you. So the 4-7 is fine. He is your selection. He is my selection. I know that.
Yeah, got to be.
Right. That's 4 quarterfinals sorted. We've 4 winners there. We've gone against each other in 1 or 2, I think. PL, what's the best bet of the quarterfinals?
Ooh, cool. Yeah, there. I'm going to go Romeo Hanzo, I think. Stick back-to-back Romeo Hanzo.
I think it could be 3 weeks running. He was picked up the previous week for us, remember?
He was. By Brinkley's magic.
Okay. Romeo Hanzo, okay. That's a big call. He's flanked by early speed. You want to be doing things right.
I'm a big man. I'm a big man for a big call.
Why not? I'm going to go with Boyle Sports Gift. He's been a good friend of mine. I think the makeup of the race is just lovely for him. And I think, while he was led up by Romeo Command last week, who took a flyer from Trap 2, Romeo Command, if you actually watch the race, it's certainly a head on. Got the head on. It's such it's joy to have, isn't it, PL? It's just such a great thing to have. Romeo Command came out so quick and turned right so soon that Boyle Sports Gift, while he's sort of probably going to edge in anyway, it was like, he's gone that way, I'll go that way. And he reacted to seeing that dog. Correct. And I think that caused him find more traffic than he needed to find. Off a better start from Trap 3 with the 2 slow starters on his inside, I honestly, I'd be making him pretty long odds on now to lead around the opening 2 bends. And, at 2-1, I'll take my chance. Boyle Sports Gift, that he gets loose. Romeo Command may well come and pick him up. And it'll be no shock to me or to you or to anyone that has seen him run or seen him win 12 of his 13 starts in the UK, which is a pretty remarkable record. But just Boyle Sports Gift, who I would have, at the very start of the competition, had as in and around our last or second last hope of winning the English Derby. I'm talking about the Irish runners. I thought Paul was losing the plot when he brought Boyle Sports Gift over, but Kevin has been pretty solid about him. He said, don't rule this fella out. He's running well. Obviously he's a 28 24-round Limerick in defeat, albeit, but he can run. I just think that the 2-1 in the opening heat is. Yeah, I think that's the call for me. So that's my best bet, Boyle Sports gift for you, Romeo Hanzo. Anything else you want to mention? Just at bigger prices, PL, or are you happy with your lot?
Yeah, no, I'd be mentioned it again. Brinkley's Magic at 5-1. I think that's big.
Yeah, I think that is a touch big. Of the others, anything I want to mention, I think the clone of Duke 7-4 is perfectly fair. I'm going to take you on with Romeo Hanzo. You mentioned Hope's Rhino at 33-1. Let's promise each other, right? If it comes in at 20-1, that we both at least had a fiver on it, okay?
Yeah. Well, that's a pact. I've made a pact with you. Definitely. I'm not gonna miss the boat there again. So,
PL, a pleasure as always. We have 4 quarterfinals of the Star Sports TRC English Greyhound Derby to look forward to at the wonderful Toaster Stadium on Saturday night. We will have 12 runners remaining after Saturday night's action. It's starting to get tense. It's starting to get exciting. Just 7 races left in this derby. There'll only be 3 after Saturday night. Hard to believe we've come this far in such a short spell of time, and yet so much action still to come. PL, a pleasure as always. You'll be back with us next week.
I certainly will.
And I promise I'll be back next week discussing all matters Star Sports TRC English Greyhound Derby with Matchbook Betting Exchange. That's it from us this afternoon. Good luck, good evening, good morning, and God bless.